this really unprecedented interview that was given by Elon Musk and his team at DOGE to Brett Baier and Fox News last night, and really getting into the nitty-gritty, the granular details of things that they're uncovering and discovering as they go through the federal bureaucracies, as they go through these agencies. They even said things like, if the federal government had to pass an audit, like every business in America has to be ready to pass, they would fail because they can't tell you where dollars are going. And the United States has one single bank account, the general fund from the Treasury, that everyone is just pulling money out of. And many times the proper codes aren't given as they're drawing money off of. They said there's over 4 million credit cards tied to the U.S. government, but only 2 to 2.5 million people that are authorized to have them. So this is just credit cards floating around out there with your taxpayer money attached to it. I don't know how the left can say these things are okay.
What's the most astonishing thing you've found out in this process?
The sheer amount of waste and fraud in the government. It is astonishing. It's mind-blowing. We routinely encounter wastes of $1 billion or more, casually. For example, like the simple survey that was literally 10-question survey that you could do with SurveyMonkey, cost you about $10,000. The government was being charged almost $1 billion for that.
For just the survey? $1
billion for a simple online survey. Do you like the national park? And then there appeared to be no feedback loop for what would be done with that survey. So the survey would just go into nothing. It was like insane.
It was just a wasted $1 billion. But that's not all they got into.
By some estimates, government IT costs about $100 billion. And it's funding systems that are over 50 years old, in the case of something like Social Security or the IRS. So really critical systems are old. They cost a lot of money to maintain. And they can be... The efforts to improve them are often very delayed.
When you see the members of the team, not just Elon being the face of it, you hear how serious they are. You hear their CVs. You hear that one's from Morgan Stanley. One is the co-founder of Airbnb, a software engineer, a literal rocket scientist. You realize that this isn't what the media has been portraying. And you also realize their mission isn't just to slash and burn everything at the federal government and break it for everyone. They actually have heart and care about the American taxpayer and the future of the country. And when you hear that, you should see support from Democrats. You should see them trying to get buy-in so that maybe they can protect the programs they want to protect, but still work towards that main goal of a more efficient government.
DOGE needs to do more of this, and they need to attempt to recruit a Democrat who is actually interested in achieving the objectives of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. If you look at those two administrations, they talked about doing a lot of the things that Elon Musk and his team are doing today.
And you hear things like, $1 billion on a survey that did nothing, or even a 9-month-old was allegedly able to get a loan from the Small Business Administration. Now, that can't be right. Right. It's because the Social Security office doesn't communicate with the computer systems of the Small Business Administration. So a fraudster was able to use a 9-month-old's Social Security number and obtain a Small Business Administration loan because Small Business Administration had no idea that that number was attached to a 9-month-old. And the 9-month-old isn't checking their credit report to see that they have a loan taken out in their name. That's the kind of fraud that they're uncovering. Everyone, regardless of your political party, should support that kind of work. Fixing broken systems from the 1950s should be updated.
That particular interview exposed the DOGE team as a group of very experienced individuals. They have experience in banking, experience in engineering, manufacturing, computers, and they're not just 22-year-old whippersnappers who could care less about the consequences of their decision making. That interview showed that the DOGE team has engaged in a deliberate strategy of saving the American people money and saving very essential services for the American people, including Social Security. And one of the things that was stunning to listen to was the fact that 40% of the phone calls to the Social Security Administration, 40%, are essentially fraudulent.
The Pentagon, who, as you mentioned, has $850 billion some odd dollar budget, has failed 7 audits in a row. They can't account for all the money they spend. And Elon Musk actually brought up something like this last night in the interview, where Susan Collins was upset, the senator from Maine, not normally one of the favorites of the MAGA crowd. But in talking with Elon, she revealed that she got passed through in a budget $12 billion for some new submarines for the Navy. And later they went back and they said, we passed this through. You got the $12 billion. Where are the submarines? None had been built. None were delivered. Well, where'd the $12 billion go? We don't know. That's astounding that the large budget and the way that even the Pentagon, our national defense, has been run, they can't pass an audit. They can't account for their money. There needs to be accountability to the American people. The left likes to talk about paying their fair share in taxes, that the billionaires need to pay their fair share, and all these lines that they parrot. They should be on board with this, saying we need to ensure that the taxes we collect are spent appropriately and not lost all over the place. Money just spilling out of government. That's a cause that Americans would resonate with. And then you can say everyone pay their fair share, but it's hard to make the case when you start to see how poorly managed our taxpayer dollars are. And that if the government couldn't pass an audit, you know they expect the American people to be able to pass an audit if the IRS comes a knocking. So there is a large disconnect in the way that the bureaucracy has run our country for far too long. They're finally doing something about it, and people are trying to stop it in court because they're so afraid of it being cut off.